Everyone, Lee Randall here from Pacifica Multi-Hulls and Deepwater Consultants, coming to you today from Gold Coast City Marina. I'm here with Paul Bury, the designer, the founder, the director of Pacifica Multi-Hulls. How are you, Paul?
Good, Lee. How you going?
It's pretty sunny here today, and
Yeah,
it's starting to warm up a bit. I know that's a bit of a redundant comment to you, being down in Melbourne.
it's sunny and 15 degrees here, so it might get to 18
Oh.
today.
So, talk to us about Pacifica. How long's this concept been in the making?
Well, so basically, Pacifica is a venture between Richard and Robin Casidlo and myself, and those guys were boat builders in Melbourne, and they sort of pulled up stumps there probably about 5 years ago, 6 years ago now. So they've been talking ever since. They're multi-hull, sailing multi-hull owners. Like they've been long-term cruisers in 38 foot, 39 foot fiberglass multi-hull that they built. So they've been sort of talking to me probably for the last 5 years about transitioning to a power catamaran, basically because it's a sort of a pretty standard story, really. They're getting on. They're not, they're still active, but they don't really want to be, doing sail changes in the middle of the night. They've had enough of that
Sure.
drama. But they still want to see the world. They want to go places. They want to be comfortable. They want to do it at speed because they understand that, oceans are very big places and you want to get across them in a reasonable time. So I've been speaking to them probably for the last 5 years, and we sort of came to we sort of coalesced onto this 44-foot platform in the last 3 years, I suppose. And then we've been, the design has been sort of bubbling along, but then also the production and how we're actually going to make this, a real thing. That's sort of harder to work out than actually designing a boat in many ways. So my factory, we had a factory set up to build Tasman 80s, which are this 8-meter sports fishing boats in Thailand, and Richard and Robin came on into that factory as partners over there, and we sort of started looking at the production on this 44 from them, and then
Yeah,
Pacifica,
nice.
Pacifica brand grew from that one boat. So yeah, that's how it all started.
Okay, so in the 44 model's the one that's out in the wild now. We've got hull number one well into production and some componentry underway for hull number two, which is available for sale. But talk to us. So you mentioned that Richard and Robin are coming from sailing boats, and no disrespect to any sailors that are listening along here, but sailors want everything for nothing in terms of the wind.
Yeah.
And so the efficiency of the 44 available in Flybridge and sedan models, the efficiency is where it really lies for this boat.
Yeah, well, as a designer, I sort of come across this, and I think it's a misunderstanding of how the realities of boating life is, that people think that sailing boats are a cheaper proposition than power boats, especially for crossing oceans. And I think that the full lifespan or the life of a boat, if you're doing miles, the costs for mast, sails, all the upkeep, the running rigging, the standing rigging, all that added up. Plus, you have to have engines as well. Like you still have to have all the mechanical systems you have on a powerboat. It's actually a line ball, if not cheaper proposition to have a powerboat of a similar size to cross oceans, especially if you're talking about an efficient one, which we are with the 44. So that's where we're sort of approaching this equation. We're not saying this, but people love sailing, then that's fine. I love sailing as well, but from a practical ownership point of view, there are some significant downsides, and we are trying to make this 44 an unusual boat in that it can travel and go places that sailing cruising boats go generally, and that's sort of long range, off the grid, sort of out in the corners of the world where regular powerboats don't generally go. Even, so-called long range cruising power catamarans, they really don't have the range that we're looking at on this 44. So we're trying to have something that we're trying to put something in the water that will get you around the globe, basically, in comfort and economically as well.
So what do we think the the real viable range of this vessel is going to be in flybridge form?
Yeah, so we're about, oh, I mean, realistically at 10 knots, which is a sort of, again, speed is an important thing. You don't want to be, it's 6 knots. Things are very efficient to push through the water, 6 knots, but the world is a way too big a place for 6 knots. So we're at a 10, 10 and a half, 11 knot cruising speed. And that's, if you can do 10 knot averages, 240 miles a day, then, the world it's an achievable cruising place across, the Pacific Ocean's still a big place at 10 knots, but that's our target. And we're looking at about 3,000 nautical miles with a 10% range, 10% reserve
Yeah, wow.
at that speed.
So
So,
it's definitely viable for someone to drive from, say, Hawaii to mainland USA.
oh, absolutely. No, absolutely. And, bridge deck clearance and sea keeping is in that equation as well, because in those parts of the world, you've got wind, you've got waves, you've got all those issues that make catamarans can be, they can be quite uncomfortable beasts in those conditions. So, yeah, we've targeted efficiency, sea keeping, and comfort, durability. We've tried to put it all into one package. I mean, there's some compromises there as well. Obviously, if you want a 4 cabin, walk around double bed boat, this ain't the boat for you. This hull volumes are relatively low, so we can get that efficiency in sea keeping. So, there's no free lunches out there, but we've really pushed it to this, the global explorer, efficient way to see the world sort of side of the equation.
Sure. And I guess points of difference from what we see so much. I mean, 44-foot catamaran power cat market is quite congested, you'd say, at the moment. So what we're seeing in this design is you've highlighted bridge deck clearance, efficiency. These are things that we don't see a lot in the 44-foot cat market. So it's definitely a stand apart in those ways.
Yeah, and yeah, we've got fully protected shaft line,
Sure.
0 degree shaft angle, so very efficient propulsion sort of layout. Commercially rated engines, so we've gone, away from the higher performance, higher RPM engines to higher displacement, like larger displacement, lower revving engines, so that you can have that sort of efficiency and reliability of long distance, relatively low output cruising on this sort of propulsion system. Structures done past, like a lot of these so-called deep ocean cruising catamarans done to CE category A. So we've gone beyond that with Lloyd's structures standards throughout. We've found that from a design point of view, CE is a little bit lacking in certain areas. The skin thicknesses are, they're not particularly durable. So we've gone to Lloyd's, which is a little bit heavier, but a significantly stiffer, stronger structure. And yeah, basically the layout is really, tailored to two people on board for an extended period with another two people as guests, on and off. So that's the boat we're at.
And so flipping across to the Pacifica 17, talk to us about that project. That's a really different project in the way it's been put together.
Yeah, the 17 is a sort of we basically, so I was partner in another company which we also built in Thailand called Vaporcat. So we did a 17-foot asymmetric high performance outboard powered sort of offshore fishing boat catamaran. So, and basically on another project we're doing with Pacifica on the 85-foot Pacifica, we were looking for a tender for that boat. And I love the VaporCat 17 sea keeping ability and handling offshore, but there's a few things about it that I didn't like. So we've essentially started with that hull form and converted it into an inboard jet powered tender version. So tenders have a slightly different requirement to an offshore fishing boat. They don't need to have as good a sea keeping. They're not running as fast offshore. So we basically filled the tunnel in to make it a modified catamaran, which then basically allows you to have shoal draft and incorporate the jet drive in a way. So if you have obviously a catamaran, you don't have any area in the tunnel to put a jet unit in. So we have a single centerline jet drive in this modified hull form, gives you great shallow draft, awesome stability still, like the Vapor Cat had. And also we've incorporated a external flotation collar that adds great fendering ability to the boat. And we have a walk in through the transom, and you have a walk in through the bow. So have a side door as well. So the access is awesome. And yeah, that's the sort of boat we're trying to sell that into the tender market and also just the regular sports boat market. So it'll come with Rotax petrol powered propulsion system up to 230 horsepower, or a diesel. We're looking at Yanmar or Mercury, about 170 horsepower maximum diesel drive as well on an Alamarin Swedish jet unit.
Yeah, nice. So a very versatile product that we can mix and match a few different options to suit an individual's real needs.
Yeah, so basically it's a center point. It's a single lifting point tender designed to go on the bow of the 85, or it could just be a sports boat, regular trailable sports boat. It has bimini if you need it, or it has an open layout if you don't want sun protection. Seats up to 8 people. So yeah, it's going to be a pretty flexible sort of platform.
You've spoken a couple of times about the 85. I think we're all excited about this project. It's a bit more long range, this one. But I think the underlying thing for this boat has always been the idea of Nordhaven efficiency at 16 knots.
Yeah, well, 16 might be stretching it a little bit. 16 knots, you're still pushing a fair bit of, well, you probably have a similar fuel burn to a Nordhaven at 10 knots. But no, I'm thinking, when you're in an ocean crossing point of view, 16 knots is a little bit unwieldy anyway from a vessel motion. We're talking 12 to 13 crossing oceans. So yeah, it's a modified, or it's a stabilized monohull configuration, which people go, what's that? And it's essentially a trimaran with very low volume outer hulls. So the majority of the vessel displacement is in a long center single monohull, and you have two stabilizing outer hulls. So, and it basically gives you the efficiency of a very long, slender monohull and the stability characteristics. Not so much of a catamaran, because we try and have better roll motions in a catamaran, which can be quite quick at sometimes. So we can control the roll motions, make the roll period similar to a monohull, so it's much more comfortably on board, and you have great, very much reduced pitching motions due to the fact you have a very, very long waterline length, 85 feet on the water as well as overall. So the idea is to basically have very high levels of comfort, very efficient powering performance, and volumes on board are okay. I mean, the main deck is quite big, like similar to a multi catamaran, but we're not tailoring huge volume for a length. It has
Yep,
similar sort of accommodation volume, probably to a 60-foot power catamaran, I suppose.
sure. And power plants, what are we planning there?
Yeah, power plant single, because you have that trimaran configuration, you have a single, so we're looking for efficiency, single diesel engine driving a controllable pitch propeller in the main hull, so it's approximately 500 horsepower. And it's a 48-volt system on board, and that'll have twin electric drives, one in each outer hull for in port slow speed, well, up to sort of 7-knot powering and import maneuvering in combination with the bow thruster. And also that'd be get home sort of redundancy as well. You power those two motors by the genset on board, and so you have a redundant propulsion system as well. So
I was
that's
going to
good.
say, so there is some redundancy as well as low speed trolling.
Yeah. Yeah. There's redundancy. Like if you can power it in the ocean at 6 knots, you can get home. But the idea principally is to have a very reliable single main engine on a protected shaft line, which is kind of, diesel engine nowadays. It's not going to stop in a hurry, and it's a protected shaft line, as I say. So as long as you keep, the fuel and the cooling water up to it, there's not a lot to stop those things.
Yep.
But yeah, redundancy is always good as well.
And that boat is going to be offered in flybridge and sedan, is offered in sedan
Yeah.
and flybridge mode.
Yeah, so basically the sedan was more of the owner, sort of relatively low volume, sort of like a Dashu, sort of, the FP, if fast power boat, the ones that the range they had.
Yep.
So with the more volume solution being the Flybridge one, which is, has an extra cabin and dedicated crew area and things like that. So but at that size, it's sort of a tailorable, proposition. It would be a semi-custom build, and layouts and geometries can be configured to suit the client's requirements.
So you mentioned that the factory is based in Thailand. We're offering delivery for these boats in Thailand at this stage.
Yeah, so basically the larger boats, obviously the 17 can be shipped wherever people want. It goes in, I think four go in a 40-foot container. Um, but yeah, the bigger boats are designed to be we can ship them, but they are designed to be launched in Thailand and be our idea is owners will take delivery there, do some trials, with close proximity to the factory, go cruising around the nice area there, come back, do some changes or warranty work or whatever we have to do, and then, set sail for their cruising adventures from there. But just the cost of shipping these boats is just crazy. So we can ship.
Well, why would you when we've got boats that are
Yeah.
so efficient and so much range? Why wouldn't you start in such a beautiful area?
Yeah, well, that's right. Well, that's the whole concept behind Pacifica, really. We're not talking about coastal cruising boats. We're talking about world cruising boats. Um, but yeah, well, as I say, we can ship these boats. It's a logistics cost issue. That's all. There's no problem there. But definitely recommend clients taking delivery in Thailand. Start your cruising adventure there.